Today we're going to do a sample problem for our mass calculation worksheet. So the first thing you're going to have to do with these is balance them. So I'm going to skip through the balancing. So 2, 1, 1, 2. So that's the first problem, balance. You're going to have to balance the rest. Some of them are a little complicated. Number 3 is a little bit hard. Some of the ones on the back are a little bit harder. And then we're going to do our 3-step problem. So that's step 1, balance, right? So now we've got to convert our mass to moles, do our mole to mole ratio, and then do our moles back to mass, usually. So let's see what they want. They want to know you've got 75 grams of sodium bromide, which is that one if you didn't know. Okay, this is where naming comes in. And you want to know, or they want to know, how many grams of sodium hydroxide will be produced. Well, that's that one. All right, so even if you didn't know, a good strategy is they both say sodium, and sodium's Na, so it's got to be one of those two. And then the question is, bromide, bromine, hydroxide, polyatomic ions. So it shouldn't be that bad as far as figuring out which ones they're talking about. So our first step is going to be to turn 75 grams of sodium bromide into moles of sodium bromide. So I'm just going to write step 1. Technically up here it's listed as step 2, whatever. Make sure you write the formula of the GFM that you're using. That's usually where that's where the majority of the mistakes are, is figuring out the GFM's wrong. They give you 75 grams and they want to know how many moles. So it turns out that it is, nope, I did that wrong. That's actually not right at all. .73 moles of sodium bromide. All right, so there's my first part. Part 2, I'm going to do a mole ratio problem to get from sodium bromide to sodium hydroxide. My balancing equation, or my balancing coefficients, are 2 and 2. I have 0.73 NABR, so I would just go 0.73. You could do it this way too. This works because it's only one problem per equation, so you do that over that. That's all you're doing. And so I'm just setting it up here as I'm rewriting it, basically ignoring the parts of the equation that I don't need, but that's effectively what I'm doing. So now I'm going to, this is easy, it's 2 to 2, which is 1 to 1, so and I get 0.73 moles of NaOH. Now, a common mistake is to see this, realize it's 1 to 1, and then be like, oh, okay, 75 grams, because that's what you started with. But that doesn't work because the GFM of the starting material is not the same as the GFM of the ending material. If it were, then it would work and you would get incredibly lucky, but 99% of the time that's not going to be the case. The GFM of NaOH is 40. We want grams and we have 0.73 moles. Solve it all and you end up getting and that's your final answer. So that's what you're doing for these problems. It is a lot of work, but it is the same format every time, which makes it a little bit easier because you're going to do the same steps in the same order every single time without fail. I did mention, I think in the note video, that I wanted you to tell me the types of reactions that were here, and then I ended up pulling it. You do know these types of reactions, like this top one is a double replacement, this next one is combination, combustion, so they're not hard. You definitely know these, but I was concerned that you wouldn't have enough space. Like, I put another box right here to say what type of reaction it is, and then it'd be just too hard to fit everything on this page. So the reaction type is not what we're really here to learn today. So if you know them, great. If you don't know them, review them on your own. we're not going to include that in this worksheet. So I am going to include a partial answer key, probably where I give you the answers to like maybe number 2 and number 3, and then you've got to do 4 on. It's just to check your work. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do them on your own and then check them to see if you're doing them right. Because if you do 2 and 3 on your own and you get them totally right, then you're going to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many there are. You're probably doing those right as well because they're all done the same way. If you just copy them down, don't even think about them, and then move on to number 4, there's a very good chance you're not going to know what you're doing. So don't just copy down the answers. If I give you a partial key, make sure you actually try them and then check them so that you know what you're doing.